What happens when Hollywood royalty crosses paths with real royalty and neither side is willing to step aside? Picture this. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos are hosting their morning show as usual when Meghan Markle appears as their special guest. What begins as a normal celebrity chat soon turns into something no one on live television has ever seen before. The cameras are rolling, millions are watching, and nobody, absolutely nobody could have imagined what was about to happen. Make sure you hit subscribe and leave a comment below, because this story is going to leave you stunned. The studio lights were burning bright as Kelly flipped through her cards, glancing at Mark, who was adjusting his earpiece. They had interviewed countless stars over the years, but today felt different. There was a strange electricity in the room, the kind that makes everyone stand a little straighter without knowing why. "Welcome back to Live with Kelly and Mark," Kelly said with her usual cheerful voice. "Today we're joined by someone who hardly needs an introduction, as someone who has been in the headlines non-stop lately. Please welcome Meghan Markle." The audience clapped loudly as Meghan walked onto the set. She held herself like someone born for the spotlight. Her cream-colored blazer reflected the studio lights, and every step she took seemed rehearsed. She sat down with the smoothness of someone who knows the entire world is watching them. "Meghan, thank you for joining us," Mark said warmly. "You've been through quite a journey these past few years." "Thank you for having me," Meghan replied, her voice calm. "Though I have to say, some of the questions I was told backstage were unexpected. I hope we can keep things respectful." Kelly raised her eyebrows slightly, just a small flicker that most people wouldn't notice. "Of course, we always aim to be respectful here, but I think our viewers also appreciate honesty." "Honesty," Meghan repeated softly, but there was a slight edge to her tone. Interesting word coming from a show built on celebrity chatter and morning entertainment. The studio froze for a beat too long. Mark shifted in his seat. He could feel the energy changing. "Well, we do discuss a lot of topics. And speaking of honesty, you've recently made some very strong claims about your time with the royal family." Meghan kept smiling, but her eyes became colder. "Strong claims?" "I shared my truth, Mark, my personal experience. Isn't that what journalism is supposed to be? Giving people a space to tell their stories?" "Of course," Kelly jumped in quickly. "But when those stories involve accusations against a major global institution, don't you think there's a responsibility to offer some proof?" "Proof?" Meghan's voice rose slightly, her calm beginning to crack. "You want proof of emotional pain? Proof of racism?" "Some things don't come with documents, Kelly." The audience went silent. The usual bright morning feeling had vanished. Mark leaned forward. "But Meghan, you talked about conversations regarding your son's skin color and being denied help during a mental health crisis. These are serious accusations that have affected real people." "Damaged relationships," Meghan repeated, her voice tightening. "What about the damage done to me? To my own family? Do you know what it feels like to have an entire establishment turn against you?" Kelly kept her voice steady, though everyone could hear the hardness underneath. "I think Mark means that when you make public claims, especially about people who cannot respond in the same way, accountability matters." "Cannot respond?" Meghan suddenly stood up, the sound of her chair scraping across the floor echoing through the studio. "The royal family has an entire PR army, centuries of power, endless money. I had nothing but my voice." "Please sit," Mark said firmly. "We're just trying to talk." "Talk?" Meghan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "This feels like an ambush." "I expected professionalism." Kelly stood, too, abandoning her on-air persona. "This is professionalism. Honest questions about real issues. If you can't handle that, maybe interviews aren't for you." Meghan's face flushed. "How dare you question my ability to handle interviews? I've spoken with Oprah, with world leaders, with major journalists. I've told my story many times." "And each time," Mark said quietly, "some parts of the story change." The entire room gasped. Meghan's eyes flashed. "Are you calling me a liar on national television?" The control room panicked. but the cameras stayed on. Kelly stepped forward. Truth should stay consistent. But the broken bar moves. Let's start with your wedding. First you said you had a private ceremony 3 days before the public one. Later you called it a symbolic moment. So which is it? That's private, Meghan shot back. You shared it in a worldwide interview, Kelly said sharply. You made it public. Mark nodded. And when you share something publicly, people will ask for clarity. Clarity according to who? Meghan snapped. The same system that leaked stories about me for years. No one is defending hateful attacks, Kelly said. But you've said things about your sister-in-law that multiple people have contradicted. My sister-in-law, Meghan whispered, her voice darkening. You mean the woman who made me cry before my wedding, and then allowed the press to say it was the other way around? You didn't correct the story for 3 years, Mark said. Why stay quiet if it hurt you so much? I was protecting her, Meghan yelled. I followed their rule: never complain, never explain. And look where it led, the crowd murmured. Kelly spoke softly but firmly. It doesn't sound like protection. It sounds like revenge. Revenge? Meghan's voice cracked. You think I ruined my relationships, my peace, my reputation for revenge? I think, Kelly said coldly, that airing private family matters on television has consequences. Meghan took a shaky step backward. How dare you bring my children into this? No one questioned your motherhood, Mark said quickly. But privacy goes both ways. Meghan turned on him. Where was privacy when I was receiving threats? When I begged for help? The studio was stunned. Kelly softened, but only slightly. If you were hurting that much, I'm sorry, truly. But using that pain to harm others is not the answer. I didn't harm anyone, Meghan whispered fiercely. I shared what happened to me. Mark shook his head. Your story changes depending on who is listening. My story stays the same, Meghan said, her voice trembling. What changes is how much I trust the person asking. We can't just accept anything without questions, Kelly replied. That isn't journalism. This isn't journalism, Meghan fired back. This is a character attack. Kelly's voice sharpened. Real journalism asks tough questions. You think I'm manipulating people? Meghan demanded. You think my drama is some plan? Kelly crossed her arms. You live in a $75 million mansion telling the world how hard palace life was. Forgive people for being confused. Meghan stood still, breathing hard. So you don't care about truth. You care about protecting the royal family. I care about accountability, Kelly said. And I am the one who suffered, Meghan shouted. Mark stepped in again. This is getting too heated. Meghan ignored him completely. You know what this is really about? You're threatened by me. By the fact I didn't stay silent. Kelly went pale, then red. Threatened? I worked for decades for this career. You got fame handed to you and threw it away because you wanted more attention. I worked for everything I achieved. Meghan fired back. I had a life before Harry. Then why stay 2 years if it was that terrible? Kelly pressed. Meghan's face softened for a split second. Because I loved him. Because I believed them. And when they didn't bend to your wishes, Kelly said quietly, you ran, and you tried to tear them down. I didn't tear anyone down, Meghan shouted, her voice breaking. I told my truth. Your truth, Mark repeated. But real truth does not shift. Meghan stared at him with disbelief. You think I went through all this for attention? Kelly's tone was icy. This looks like rewriting history. Meghan's lips